Hello and welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. I am here in the studio with my part of the Wolfpack Cup. I know there's a few people that listen and watch this that love that. Steve's not got his because I did prep him. I'm a cotton-headed ninny. What's it say? Ninny Muggins of Elf. Yes, lovely, love it. It's you can maybe tell when we're recording this, what time of year we are. It's good to be back in the studio.
Knowing how much I love Christmas, it could be any time of year, Ben. We know this, so that's why I don't mind having the mug out. So that's fine; it's not a problem.
Having the mug out and then having a mug on. Like,
yes.
Sorry, I'm not. Oh, I've insulted you first. Anyway, never mind. He usually makes some comment about my beard and not being able to grow one and my shiny head as well. So we've gone there. But we are well in the throes of some incredible projects that we are working on. Obviously, we're going to be bet partners again in January. We're out at ISE in Barcelona. The Edufuturists Roadshow is happening and is out in the world all around the UK. So if you haven't got your tickets for that, then get involved with that. The awards are out, nominations. It's super, super exciting for us. And we're recording brilliant podcasts. Not least the one that we've got in today. We've got a guest that hopefully many of you will learn some great stuff from today. We know that'll happen. I say hopefully. I actually mean we will do. But not many of you might know our guest who's in the studio today, and we hope that we'll be able to shine a little bit of a light on what they're doing and why that matters currently and for the future of education as well. So Steve, should we just get straight into talking to the guest? And I don't really want to talk to you anymore. We've had too many conversations.
We spend enough time together, don't we, Ben?
Yeah, we do. Oh, we didn't even mention a book, but we'll maybe mention that at the end. Let's mention that at the end. So, Joe Lowther, you tell us a little bit about you and what you do on a day to day.
Hey Ben, great to be here. Nice to meet you, Steve. And I'm feeling very left out without my Mr. Claus mug that I got for Christmas last year. So yeah, excited to be here. My name is Joe. I'm married to Laura. We have 3 boys, and I am passionate about making a difference in children and young people's lives. I was previously a principal of an outstanding school. I was there for 9 years before coming across to KIC, where I've just had my 11th year. And our mission is to transform young people's lives with God's love through sport and support. And so we want to make a difference in the lives of children and young people, and that really matters to me.
I suppose the first step, and we'll step into KIC and all of those kind of things. The step, was it a step in or was it a step out? That's probably a prying question, but was it a step into something new or was it a step out from something that you felt was no longer sustainable? Just as an honest conversation right at the start, if that's okay.
When I first came to KIC, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Fascinating question. So I did a film and television degree. I wrote my dissertation on Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I had a great time at university. Ironically, though, the dissertation that I wrote, looking back on it with hindsight, was about his career connected to the concept of family. So it was brother, patriarch, mother, Arnold Schwarzenegger and the concept of the family. And so I had this great time at uni, studying film, and I was thinking I'd go into directing films. And during that time, I was really umming and ahhing as to what to do next and to take the plunge. And obviously in the media, as I'm sure you guys know, it's sometimes a bit up and down, sort of work-wise. And so I was thinking, is this the right thing? Anyway, I got my dream job working at Sky Sports News. I loved sport and I loved the media. And so I was delighted to work there. But I met one of the anchors there, and we went for drinks, and I just got engaged. And he said to me, I'm at the end of my 4th marriage. If you're really serious about this business, this has got to matter more to you than that aspect of life. And I just thought, that doesn't matter more to me than that aspect of life. And so I decided to move on, and I came to this little charity called City Gateway that grew from 5 staff to 250. And I started doing some media programs there, and then things developed and I started leading and managing. And as we grew, I kind of just rode that rapid. And it got to a point where I felt again, it was time time for a change. And I struggled with it because I didn't want to leave, and I love the people that I work with, but I did feel it was the right time to change. And so what actually happened to me, and I can't really describe this in any other way than with a lens of my Christian faith. I prayed, and I felt God was stirring me to change, and I didn't want to leave, but I did feel it was the right time. And so I took a step of faith. I resigned without anywhere to go, and gave them 10 months to replace me. And basically we got to Easter. And so this question about step out or step in is a very good question, because essentially I stepped out. And then what happened was, at Easter, Good Friday, as any former film student might do that is a Christian, I sat down to watch The Passion of Christ, the movie. And so I'm watching this film, it gets me in the mood. And, it's a tough watch, but I'm watching it. And I'd heard about this little organization called Kick that did sport, mission, and education. And I thought, well, I'm trained in education, I believe in mission, and I blimmin' love sport. Maybe I should give them a call. And then I thought, no, it's Good Friday. Don't drop an email. Long bank holiday weekend, contact them on Tuesday. So I sit back to watch this film, get up to grab a drinks break an hour later, check my phone, and the chair of Kick has emailed me saying, our director resigned yesterday. We've met this morning to talk about shutting down the organization. Would you ever consider leaving your job to come work for us? I couldn't believe it. He didn't know that I had recently resigned as being head teacher. And so it was an unbelievable coincidence, or it was God. And so I joined Kick in 2014. And in that time, it's been a thriller. But that question of step out or step in, I kind of felt like I had to step out in order to step in. And that was really, my honest experience, Steve.
I love listening to that and thinking, wherever you position that from how that happens, why that happens, universe, God, fate, all the things that go with it. And I know that how you interpret that, I think is beautiful, about how that stopped. And interestingly, the whole bit about Sky Sports as well, really interesting, that you decided, I'm going to make that's not a priority in my life, so I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go into that, and now I'm decided I've got to this point in my career as a principal, I need to pivot out of this, and it feels like the right thing to do. So I'm going to step out of that as an act of faith, or as an act of like knowing that I need to do something different. And I think that both me and Steve will attest to that both we both did that, and we were quite fortunate as we stepped out of our secure education roles to go and do something that's totally might not be as secure, but you just go, when you know that you know that you know, and then any confirmation that comes from that. And I suppose that really comes into hearing about the mission of what Kick is doing. And I know you where it comes from and its whole kind of purpose is really powerful. And I think, tell us a little bit about what that is, and then obviously we can jump into why you do what you do in terms of the hope conversation that we need to talk about. Not Steve
Definitely.
Hope, that just the real hope.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great surname. Wow. Well, look, our mission is to transform young people's lives with God's love through sport and support. So we exist for any and every child or young person, regardless of their own beliefs or backgrounds, to serve them and make a transformational difference in their lives. And we are heartbroken by the reality that 1 in 3 15-year-olds identify with a mental health condition, that 840 million days of education were lost during those 2 lockdowns. And we can try and pretend and airbrush that out of many children and young people's experience, but that was cataclysmic for many of their situations. The 3.6 million children and young people that grow up in lone parent families. And UNICEF identify fatherlessness as one of the 4 pillars of global poverty. And so, there is a real challenge that children and young people are having to face. And it's not easy. 3 out of 5 16 to 24-year-olds would say they feel disillusioned with life. So this sense of hopelessness, unfortunately, prevails amongst children and young people. And we want to build a better story for them. And so we go into schools and we deliver 4 professional services, physical education, 25 different sports, anything from the classics, to kind of futsal, korfball, boxing, a range of different sports, a really wide range. But then also street dance, 15 different dance disciplines, street dance, break dance, locking, popping, stepping, house, otherwise known as hip hop, musical theatre, cheerleading, creative improvisation, and then new for this year, Brazilian carnival, Bollywood bounce, Pilates, Afrobeats, and Zumba. So a really brilliant array. Don't ask me to do any of them, but 40, if you like, different sports or dance disciplines.
I think you've got popping down, Joe. You've got popping down, haven't you?
I honestly, popping those joints, I had to learn loads about how these things work, but it's not for me. I'm sure Steve's good at it. We got hope there. We got hope. And then we also deliver solutions-focused mentoring for some of the most challenging kids in the school, and that helps children and young people find the solutions to problems they face, building on cognitive behavioural therapy, otherwise known as CBT. And then the 4th aspect of what we do, where helpful, is that we can provide schools-based chaplaincy, and so again, if you like, a spiritual dynamic to what we do, where that is helpful in the right context. And again, those are just the 4 different things we try to provide as a holistic piece of education to give a hope for the future and a joy in the present.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it's the impact of physical activity and sport and all of those things on mental health, well-being, and just everything else. That has seen a reduction in terms of its emphasis in the curriculum in the schools, and often even less, even though it looks like it's on a timetable as they get older and go through exam stress. A lot of that activity is taken away because ultimately then they're pressurized to focus on things that they feel needed to focus on for the exam. But in high pressure, like we know, Ben, don't we? And I'm sure we all do, that when you're having a stressful time or anything else, the ability to get out is not just about how it feels to your body, but the ability of the help on the mind is significant. Obviously, I started life as a PE teacher.
Brilliant.
And all my career stemmed into that. I was PE, so I was post-16, but did that I was in the classroom for 14 years. And the significance of all of those kind of things. But I think as well as that, I think it's starting to think about the coaching element and the mentoring. And do you distinguish between the both of those? So I know that obviously as staff body on your website, you've got coaches. Are the coaches for sport or the coaches for young people? What is the distinguish? And then when you step into mentoring, because mentoring and coaching are 2 very different channels.
They are.
So I'm interested by your structure, really.
So we provide either sports practitioners, sports coaches, or street dance coaches. And that's invariably because our sports coaches are dreadful dancers and our dance coaches don't always understand all the laws of cricket. And so, that's only fair. It would be unfair to place them in those impossible situations. And so we provide sport or dance practitioners that we train to mentor, and we're helpful to deliver chaplaincy. And so that from one person, you can have the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And you rightly said, when children and young people were literally locked up during lockdown in their houses, unfortunately, some in very positive environments, others in extremely negative environments, they were unable to process some of their mental health through their physical health. And what we've seen is just an explosion of desire to be physical coming out of those years and regain some sense of control around their mental health. And without that, I mean, there were some terrifying scenarios. I mean, post-lockdown, self-harm increased to 1 in 5 young people. Attendance dropped from a 97% average across the country to an 80% These are really, really problematic statistics, as I'm sure you guys know, and anybody listening from the world of education, that not being present for education is absolutely disastrous for when it comes through to those summative and formative, let alone formative assessments at GCSE. Another statistic that really shocked me was that 60% of terrorism referrals are now for under 20-year-olds. So during these times, without that hope, children, young people are being groomed, and there are some very dangerous scenarios for children, young people out there. And so, again, providing a safe space to talk to another adult as a mentor is very important to us. And as I say, we use that solutions-focused approach to mentoring, which builds on cognitive behavioral therapy, to help children and young people have that space to talk through what's really going on in their mind, in their life. We encourage them to be physically fit and active through the coaching. We provide wraparound after school clubs that keep children and young people physically fit and active outside of school time. We also partner with local community groups to run kick academies in the community at a low cost or no cost whatsoever, as a response to some of the cost of living crisis, but also to connect communities more closer together. We can provide holiday-based provision to keep children and young people physically fit and active throughout the year, rather than, I'm sure you know this, but the Sutton Review did a brilliant piece on the regression in education from July to September, where children and young people are sat at home playing computer games, eating fried chicken, and all the detrimental effects that has on their diet and mental cognition to come back in September. And so keeping them physically fit and active through the summer is very important for their learning. So there's just so many different aspects. I mean, if I can touch on one last one, Steve, do you know this? I didn't know this. It's impossible to set up a prison in the UK without a warden, a medic, and a chaplain. And I found that fascinating. Chaplaincy is an amazing opportunity to be a listening ear and offer hope to people that have been locked up in a prison context. And so again, where children, young people feel trapped and hopeless, what we're seeing is chaplaincy is just a really helpful outlet for them to explore big ideas and consider what these big ideas mean to them. And so again, that's just been a fascinating other aspect of our work that has brought hope.
I think for all of us that are listening or that were involved in the conversation now, we can all attest to the power of physical activity for when things are tough, or when things are dark, or what that does. And we know it's a hormonal thing, it's a physiological thing of the dopamine and the endorphins and all the other things that come with that. And so sometimes children, and sometimes even parents in that space, don't always pick and understand the benefit of this. And so we know that schools, what happens when you I remember when I was teaching in a secondary school, what happens when you're coming up to exam season, what stuff gets stopped if you need extra maths and English? Well, it was RE, what I used to teach, which used to annoy me. And it was PE. It's like, oh, you don't need to do PE this week. And I know that that's shifting, and there's more of a focus around core PE, but there's still a challenge here that when you're under pressure, the best thing to do probably, and we say this all the time, don't we, Steve? Like, whether that's going out for a run, lifting weights, playing, hitting a ball against a wall when I used to play squash a lot, like all them kind of things. Yet we if we don't train young people in that and understand the work that happens, and physiologically, like there is the hope thing, there is the physical activity thing, but actually, like emotionally, that how that all ties together, and then being able to tie that into, because you've released these endorphins that help you relax, that help you feel better about yourself, you're more likely then to be able to have a conversation. I know I'm preaching to you, but I'm thinking about what this might mean for somebody who's listening to this, and you're thinking the principle on it. Sorry, I know you wanted to jump in.
No, it's so true. I mean, sorry, Ben, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you look at private schools. Private schools get outstanding results and yet they invest 5 hours of PE a week, not 2. And they don't, as you rightly say, cut down the 2 hours they're supposed to provide. They lean into it. And so they see the children, young people, if they expend some of their physical energy, are then greater prepared to deliver on their mental energy and their academic energy, if you like. And, you know, I've just been reading the 5 a.m. Club, brilliant book by Robin Sharma. And what does it encourage you to do in that power hour from 5 till 6? Exercise. And if you exercise, then your body is able to take on board sort of learning ahead of the day. And so again, I just think it's really fascinating that in order to achieve outstanding academic results, leaning into the physical rather than away from it is what those independent schools are doing. And there's something there to learn. I was horrified by one scenario. I met with a primary school, a full form entry primary school. And they said to me, we've had this brilliant idea. We're going to embed our 2 hours of PE in the lunch break so that we can spend more time on English and maths. And I just thought, well, your grades will nosedive. And they did. And so again, it's just something, I just implore any educationist to listen to this podcast. Do not underinvest. It seems counterintuitive, but all the physiology and the biology of what we know, not what we may assume, but what we know is that you get the physical out of the way and you can be prepared to learn the mental.
And I think I'm just going to jump in again here as well. And many of people who listen to our podcast for over any period of time will know that we are very vocal about schools. The purpose of schools is not exam results, and that we aren't enamored by that as a concept. We hate the idea of performance tables, pitching people off against each other and outstanding this and outstanding that. We know that the whole principle around the bell curve is designed so that 40% at least of our learners are designed by design, let me say again, by design, to fail and be labelled a failure. So we are in that, like, we need to rethink all of that. But in the liminal space that we're in between what we hope education could become and what it is currently, we know that exams and the pressure around that and that high stakes summative assessment is a crucial part of this. And what we're saying is, and what I'm hearing from what you're saying here, Joe, is that when you want performance at every level, whether that is academic summative assessment, exam results, or whether that is performance, being awake in class, being ready for stuff, being able to deal with challenge and problems and heartache and trauma. The reality is physical exercise and then the ability to talk through some of this stuff. That combination will improve all areas. And we have partners on the podcast and in our awards, and I get to work with them quite a lot. Steve's hopefully going to be doing some stuff with them later on as well.
Brilliant.
That's whole education, and whole education talk about this idea that everyone thrives in a transforming world. It's not just about how good our results are, it's about thriving. And I think that ties into what you're talking about. And that, interestingly, that whole conversation around hopelessness, which is where we've gone here. The stats are like crazy about the terrorism stats, the amount of students that self-harm, young people that self-harm, they don't feel like they want to be here, all them things that go with it. And we've lived and breathed that, like, from personally and in our context. And we get to work with another brilliant organization, Beyond, who help, and Louisa and the team there are helping young people in that mental health space. Incredible work that they're doing there. But there is a crisis, isn't there? The stats are one thing, but these are all individual people that are in crisis, aren't they? This episode of Edufuturist is powered by Integrated Systems Europe, the must-attend event for educators, technologists, and institutional leaders seeking to shape the future of learning.
From the 3rd to the 6th of February 2026, ISE returns to Barcelona, uniting the brightest minds and the boldest ideas in the edtech industry. Join us and push back beyond the possibilities that are transforming the classroom of tomorrow.
Don't just keep up with the industry, get ahead of it. Check out the video that's coming next to find out more and join us for ISE 2026. We'll be there in Barcelona, and use our special code Edufuturists for free registration at iseeurope.org.
The world of education is changing, and education technology is helping to change it. Different teaching styles, more flexible delivery, and a wider range of resources. All of these mean EdTech is playing a greater role than ever. And that applies to learning taking place in the classroom, the lecture hall, the corporate training center, or delivered online. Integrated Systems Europe is the world-renowned annual tech show for the systems integration and audiovisual industry. At ISE 2026, you will find all the leading EdTech brands in our Education Technology Zone in Halls 1 and 2, in our Connected Classroom Showcase, and across the show floor. Solutions on display include wireless presentation systems, interactive displays, short throw projectors, collaboration tables, VR and AR systems, lecture capture, and integrated lecterns. In fact, ISE 2026 has everything you need to create learning experiences that are engaging, involving, and inclusive. See what you can learn. Come to ISE 2026 and explore the future of EdTech.
They are, and look, we do not provide English and maths to schools. We provide that holistic wraparound set of services, if you like, and our mission is to provide sport and support. And so whether it be, any one of our 40 sports or dance disciplines that get children and people physically fit and active, get them embracing the creative arts, get them, feeling proud to represent and be a part of a team or choreograph a piece, or whether it's through support, through the mentoring or the chaplaincy. We believe in a holistic education, and as you rightly say, whether the results are just focused on English and maths or other subjects, it's just a part of the jigsaw, not the whole beauty of the piece. And so we really believe that we can provide an alternative and if you like, an enhanced education by providing a bit more of that informal education into a formal education setting, and helping children and young people understand more around who they are as a person in order to be more successful in whatever environment they progress into. What is hope? At the end of the day, our aspiration is to give children and young people a hope for the future and a joy in the present. We want them to aspire and to believe in themselves, to reinvigorate that sense of who they are and where they can go, and encourage that and fan that into flame, whilst helping them enjoy themselves whilst they get there. And so we are not an end in ourselves. We actually work in collaboration with each of the 107 schools that we work in. We are here to work and collaborate and complement what is going on in a school environment. But in our experience, where we provide sport and support, if you like, as a package, we just have seen those environments thrive, and a number of those schools, really succeed for the sake of the children and young people. That's why we're all here, isn't it? It's not for Ofsted, it's for each young person's life, and ultimately to give them a hope for the future as well as a joy in the present.
And stepping into and considering the 107 schools and the regions that you work in, is there a distinguishing factor in regards to age or gender in terms of some of those bits? I think Joe, self-belief in potentially young girls, but also young boys, and some of those bits. Does it based on location, from inner city, or I don't like the word area of deprivation, but like Joe, is it from where kids are from council estates, and I suppose it's one of those. It's really a really interesting thing because it's polarized by society. The adults are really not helping these young children by the information we're putting out because we're so. It looks like adults have lost hope. Like if you look in the news and all over everywhere. But we'll go back to the start and then we'll kind of how adults can actually maybe help them a little bit and share the narrative. But do any particular areas of focus or anything that's been pulled out from your work in regards to genders or ages or demographic?
Yeah, well, look, we exist for every and any child or young person, regardless of their backgrounds or beliefs. In terms of age profile, we work in infant, primary, secondary, PRU, special, and independent schools. So essentially, we kind of work from 4 to 18-year-olds. The kind of age breakdown of those that we work with, 56% of our work is with primary age kids and 44% is with secondary age. So there is quite a healthy balance there in many ways. In terms of gender, again, I spoke at the All-Party Parliamentary Forum for the impact of COVID on children's mental and physical well-being around the importance of girls in sport. And I was so pleased to be able to do that. You know, there are so many barriers that hold young women back from engaging in sport as their bodies change, as they, as the equipment that they need that is alternative, for example, different types of bra and how their physicality is changing when their periods are starting to come through, the perceived embarrassment that they may be for them, and all these different awful factors that just affect them. It was fascinating. There was a number of organizations that are designed just to help with the right equipment and kit for girls to be able to play sport, and these things are just so important to remove these barriers for them engaging in sport. But one of the things that we've found fascinating, street dance, for example, is 50-50 male-female ratio. Boys love it just as much as girls. And so we can be breaking down some of those stereotypes to get boys active through dance as well as girls is something that we're really keen on. Korfball is an amazing sport, a Dutch sport, very popular in Australia. We now have a GB korfball team, which I think is great. Well, you must have male and female players to a team, but and by the way, it's like a hybrid of basketball and netball. Well, as I say, you must have male and female players to a team, but the females play against each other and the males play against each other. And so within that team dynamic, there's actually a really healthy opportunity for competition through a range of different ages and stages. But when it comes to the mentoring, we have a slightly larger proportion of our mentees that are referred to us. These are what the schools refer to us. They refer boys more than girls. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Lost Boys report by the Centre for Social Justice that came out in March of this year. But that was very challenging. I mean, boys are really struggling in education. They are more likely to take their own lives. They are less likely to move on to get stable work. And they're far more likely to get caught up in crime. And in all the metrics now, girls are outperforming boys in exams. They're outperforming boys in university places. They're outperforming boys in starting salaries in jobs in their 20s. And so again, it's brilliant news that girls are doing so well, but it is very concerning news that boys are really struggling. And so again, we I don't know if you know this, in primary school context, 89% of staff in a primary school are female across the country. And so again, that's lovely. And the maternal role is so important. But for children and young people that don't have a dad, which 3.6 million don't have at home, you could sail through into teenage years without having any positive male role model in your life. And that is a problem. I really think that is a concern. And because for one reason or another, children, young people will find a male role model. And just what we've seen for girls, sadly, and for boys, their standard of what good looks like in a man is then somewhat misshaped because they haven't had that experience through to teenage years. And so I was talking to a youth worker the other week. He was he was stood at the school gates, and there was a drug dealer there. And he said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "What are you doing here?" And they had a talk. And he said, the drug dealer said to him, "We're in the same game. We are both trying to work with children, young people." And he said, "I'm doing it for bad, and you're doing it for good." And that is the life. That is the danger for children, young people, that they find these role models in the wrong places. And so where we can provide surrogate male role models or female role models, if you like, I sometimes describe it in our mentoring like surrogate dads for girls and for boys. We really believe in that.
Yeah, and can definitely attest to that, having been in the schools that I've worked in, and the schools that I'm working with now. That heavy, and it's like you said, it's not a problem. That heavy female space, but then who? It's brilliant. But who are the male role models that we're looking for? And then, like you said, they see the drug dealer on the gate, or they see, and we know that it's cliched, but we see an Andrew Tate on a TikTok, or this, or but there's thousands that are doing the same. And what's really good is there are wonderful people like Jamie Lang and others who are trying to do something different and say that we can have masculinity without being toxic in that space. But that somebody that you can see close to them rather than just somebody you see on TikTok is powerful. Now, one thing I just want to touch on before we wrap with our quick fire questions that we do on the podcast is you talk about hope for the future, and I think that's really important that we get there. But you're also talking about joy in the present. What does the joy in the present thing mean? And I know that has a spiritual element, but for even in the schools that aren't, and I know you work in a lot of faith schools, but even in the schools where it isn't faith, what does joy look like in the present?
Boy, I mean, I could talk about this for ages. I mean, if you just take our sports, scoring a try in rugby, hitting an ace in tennis, winning a medal in swimming, choreographing a piece around Afro beats or cheerleading and delivering on that, learning a new move in Brazilian carnival. I mean, there are so many opportunities for joy. I mean, one of the things I describe is our Paralympic provision. I think that is an amazing opportunity for joy, where where some of our more disabled or learners with learning difficulties often wipe the floor with their able-bodied counterparts. As if you've ever played goalball, or you roll the ball, it's got a bell in it. You're wearing a blindfold if you have full sight. You dive one way, the ball sails completely the other way because you're just not attuned to those types of aspects of your body quite in the same way as somebody who is blind and who's really thought hard about how to hear. They just destroy their able-bodied counterparts, and so that's just a great way of actually learning and seeing the joy in different young people's faces and cheering each other on. And I think those are such profound opportunities. Mentoring is tough, but happiness is different to joy. I wouldn't say there's much happiness often in mentoring. It's quite hard. Listening to difficult situations, self-harm, volatile scenarios at home, learners being bullied or being the bully, and sort of starting to recognize those things. Those are not happy environments, but they can be deeply joyful environments where you see a young person appreciate for the first time, oh, I've treated somebody badly. I maybe should change that behavior. Or where you see a young person start to build in confidence, they have self-worth. We worked with a learner who would say she had existential depression, and she confided after a year that it was a year later, that it was the night that she'd gone to take her life on a motorway and throw herself off a bridge. She got cold feet, she'd come home, but she hadn't told anyone for a year that she'd been suicidal. And so we built a team around that child, worked very closely with the DSL in the school. And the mentor, had obviously said, I'll need to share this with other people. This is serious. And so when he met with her 2 weeks later, he was nervous as to how she would react to him. And she said, she said, "Thank you for caring that I am alive." And she said, "You've given me a reason to live, because somebody took time to build this team around me to help me recover." And so things like this, these are not happy in our scenarios, but they are joyful. That is, it's not always that our jobs are life and death, but in that moment we knew it was, and that that is moving. And again, we partner with different community groups such as churches and enable them to run extended sport or dance in the evenings or at the weekends for low cost or no cost at all. And seeing those young people come to a tournament that we helped coordinate. We had 400 kids come and hear about that in the summer and play, and seeing them enjoy themselves was just great. We absolutely love that. And the kind of wider aspects around hope, such as hope that we can change difficult circumstances to better ones through the mentoring, hope that we can score a goal or perform well, or as well as things like hope in a future, hope after life. These are I feel very proud, really, that our jobs are at KIG genuinely provide a hope and a joy. And 40% of our schools are non-faith schools, 50% are Church of England, 10% Roman Catholic. But that 40% of non-faith schools, we are so proud to work in those environments. And we are guests in the house of the head teacher. So if they are non-faith schools, they won't want to talk about faith, and that's okay. We won't talk about faith either. And we'll deliver mentoring to the best of our ability and sport and dance coaching to the best of our ability. They probably won't need the chaplaincy. That's all right. That's the ethos of their school, and we are there to serve in order to, in any shape or form, transform a young person's life. And so the personal development of the individual, the social impact of the community, and where helpful, the spiritual change of both of those two things are why we're here.
So feel bad for moving on, but yeah, it's one of those things. We always finish with 3 quick-fire questions. I'll go first. Ben will do the second question, and I'll finish up. So the first question is: if schools were judged like restaurants by how much customers actually enjoyed the experience, what would change overnight?
Ooh. So it's like the a la carte, or the what do they call it? What's that sort of? Oh, there's that funny
buffet.
What's
The
that
buffet menu.
That French way of doing a restaurant. What would change overnight if they were judged like restaurants? Oh gosh, I don't know. I think we'd love. Look, listen. I think schools do an amazing job. They have too much judgment going on in a school environment. I think schools are the most regulated environment in the UK. They have so much pressure. I mean, they already get a load of judgments from Ofsted or from SIAMs or Mocksteds that they run themselves. They obviously run assessment with all the young people. So there's this constant culture of judgment going on in a school context. And I feel really bad for them. I feel there should be some freedom. And I think this is kind of why we are helpful to a school, because maybe that judgment and assessment method, it can be alternative. We're providing informal education to a formal education setting. And so, yeah, sorry if I haven't answered that in the way you'd like me to, but I do feel they're over-regulated, and that it puts a lot of pressure on head teachers. It makes their life very difficult to lead their school in a way that I think would add a bit of joy and a bit of life, because they're worried about the judgment,
Yeah, that's cool, because you have answered the question about judgment. If they were judged, you're saying maybe they shouldn't be.
Yeah, a little bit less.
Thing. So the second question is, what's the most dangerous myth that educators tell themselves to avoid real change?
Wow, these are excellent questions. I think.
Thanks.
These
I
are
wrote
really
these,
good.
and Steve.
Yeah, these are really, really good. I think things like I am defined by my exam results, and that can ebb to children and young people. And I think the most powerful educators in I found out I was dyslexic the February before I sat my GCSEs, and I just used to think I was thick. And when I found out I was dyslexic, that was so helpful to understand. I wasn't stupid. I just thought differently. And my short-term memory was 25% when most people's is 50-50. And my long-term memory was 75%. So I just needed to work in a different way in order to succeed. And when you find out more about who you are, I think you're more able to play to your strengths. And so the teachers that I found most helpful were those that weren't exam junkies, but were those that cared and contributed to your character. And interestingly, that often led to better exam results anyway, and better people. And so I would just encourage teachers not to just focus on the exams. It's very difficult not to, because you're judged all the time. But where you can build character, competency often follows. And so to have those challenging conversations and to give aspiration to the young people, I think is really important.
One, if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say?
Yeah, well, I've got a 15, 12, and a 9-year-old. So I've got a 10-year-old coming up after having 2 already. And I think I'd talk about the opportunity that's available to all of them. At Kick, we have 5 values. They are to be aspirational on behalf of a young person. Sometimes a 10-year-old doesn't believe they can do things, and we want to encourage them to aspire to their futures. Secondly, we believe in compassion. We want to treat them well and listen to them and be kind. Thirdly, we want to be excellent in our service delivery, really take our time to think through our session plans to make them excellent for the kids. And then the final two areas of our values to be intentional in our relationships. My 9-year-old, he loves art. And so he determines whether he's had a good day or not, if he's had art or not. And so again, to really lean in to celebrate his artwork, whilst having the final eye of our ACE2 values, to have integrity, to challenge him that other subjects are important too, and to have that kind of wider sort of understanding of education that actually is good to have maths. It is helpful to you, even though if it's your worst subject or you're the one you don't like the best. These are important life skills. I think, look, for me, life skills are so crucial to education, and we need to be coaching adults of the future, growing men and women from being boys and girls. And so I do sometimes get frustrated with the kind of the more academic focus and the kind of lack of holistic education in our schools. And that's something that that's why we're here as Kick, is to help that holistic approach. And so I'd encourage my 10-year-old to go to school, to be the best they can be. We have a family motto in our home, which is always try your best. You haven't got to be the best, but we always try our best. And that's what I'd encourage them to do.
Love it. And I think that's a lovely way to finish as well. That you don't have to be the best, just be your best and do your best. So love this. It's been a great conversation about something that sometimes gets overlooked, which is the sport thing. But secondly, the other bit that around and the impact of physical activity. I know that'll resonate with Steve as a former PE teacher, but also somebody who knows, struggled with his own mental health, watched other people and supported them, and seen the benefit that actually for me, that's now about lifting weights.
Brilliant.
When I lift weights, I know that there's something just happening. And so it's powerful. Yeah. So we've loved this. If you want to find out a little bit more about what Kick does, the links are going to be in the show notes. If you want to get involved, if your school thinks that it might be able to benefit from this, then we'll connect in today. We'll put Joe's contact details in there in terms of LinkedIn as well, so you can connect into that one. And yeah, it's been a good one, and we've been on a journey to think about what happens with our own Edufuturist stuff. And actually, our event in January, if you listen to this beforehand, at Canva HQ in London the night before Bet, is focusing on wellbeing. So if you are listening to this and haven't booked in yet, and you join, message us, let us know, find out about that event, and we can get you some information around it, and we can talk about that as well. So, Joe, it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for the work that you're doing. And we'll keep on pushing that idea of hope for the future, enjoying the present. So, appreciate your time today.
Thank you
Joe.
so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Sure.